Hi all, today we are going to see about activity diagrams and we will also see the unified modeling diagram activity diagram, and we will also be seeing about enterprise, how to actually build an activity diagram using enterprise architect, right? We have already seen use case diagram before in the last session. So in use case diagram, if you could see, use case diagram is mainly focused, it's like a user centered diagram, like we mainly focus on the actors, then we have to identify the use cases, then we have to identify the relationship between them, right, and then we can actually build the use case narratives. So there is a particular format which we have to do it in a use case diagram. So now in the same way we have something called activity diagram. So in activity diagram we mainly focus on the flow of the business process. Say if we have withdraw money from ATM, so we know we by depicting the activity diagram, so we should be able to identify and understand the flow of the business process. So it's more like a flow chart kind of thing which you have learned before, but a formal one, right? So if we know the steps, say we have seen the steps in the use case narrative, right, done between the user and the system. So that steps or the main logic of an object behavior is what we are actually focusing in activity diagram, right. So we can actually generate one or more activity diagram for each use case is something which you have to understand. That means we can find the logic to find a solution to a particular use case in multiple ways, right. So we can have multiple activity diagrams for one use case itself. So this is an example of the use case diagram from one of the famous textbook. So if you could see here, say we have an order subsystem, then inventory subsystem, warehouse and shipping. So this, when you look at this diagram as a whole, you could feel like this is something called as which looks very similar to a flow chart, right. So say from the warehouse, so this is actually partial process of a big process. So you are actually selecting the order to process, and then you are identifying the order. So identifying the order is actually done with the help of the order subsystem, and then you need to check in the warehouse whether there is sufficient stock. So this is maybe in one particular order itself you can have multiple items, right. So in this, so this is basically called like a loop. This acts like a loop, okay, or an iterative step, right. So when you look at here, you are actually finding the warehouse with sufficient, find warehouse with sufficient stock, stock found. If stock found, what you have to do, okay, so stock found, then you can pick the item, then decrement the count, right. The stock not found, actually the item is not there. So you have to actually go for an alternative act. So this is something which you have to do for each and every item. Say I have 5 or 6 items in my order, then I have to do that the same kind of steps for a multiple number of steps, right. So that is actually what is actually given between this black color thick kind of boxes, okay. So this is called as a fork, and this is kind of the join. Now when you look at it, after, say once all our item is done and everything, then transmitting the shipping details. So we are actually passing the shipping details directly to the warehouse, okay. So here we are actually preparing the shipment, generate tracking record, then we are actually finding the store shipment record, and after getting the store shipment record, this is actually again a fork. That means after the shipping record we have to transmit the shipment and receive, and at the same time we need to update the order. So these two activities, when you look at here, this transmit shipment and update order shipment status, this has to be done in parallel, right. So if something has to be done in parallel, you could say that this is actually a forking process. Now once you receive the payment, yes, you are updating your status and receiving the payment, and that's done. So this is the start symbol. So there are various symbols or operators that you have to use basically in activity diagram symbols. So this is start symbol, and this is the process symbols, right. Activity, they are called as activities. These are the arrows, and they are called as the synchronous bars, and there is a decision system which is actually coming in the picture, and there is a join, and there is an end symbol. These are the various symbols which comes in activity diagram. So now, so this is, so when you look at the activity diagram, So, this one single lane is called as the swim lane, okay, they are called as a swim lane. So, something similar to your swimming, I guess. So, say order subsystem. So, when I look at this particular lane, I can clearly understand how order subsystem is actually, you know, related to this whole process. When I look at this particular lane, it is very clear for me to identify the inventory subsystem is actually how it is actually related to this whole process. So, this is why we use this lane system, they are called as a swim lane. So, swim lane heading, so when you look at it, so here it could be order subsystem or a manager or a customer. So, all those things basically comes as your swim lane heading. And then this is your starting activity, this is the ending activity, and these are the activities itself, and these are the transitional arrows. And here you have a synchronous bar, okay. So, this is called as a fork. So, for the fork you will have this bar where you know one arrow comes in and multiple arrows goes outside. And when you look at the join, you will have multiple arrows coming in, I mean like you are joining something, right, and you are joining that and only one arrow goes out. So, when you look at here to have a more technical understanding, say this arrow is, say just consider that this arrow comes from some decision box or something, and here there are activities which could be done in parallel or in a concurrent way, or it is actually application specific, or it could be like a series of actions which has to be done in an iterative manner, right. So, those are the activities which comes after the fork. And before the join, say this is your join operation where you have multiple arrows coming onto this thick black line, and one arrow comes out. So, this is kind of your join. That means that all this operation has to be completed before moving over to this particular next activity. And this is the decision line. So, decision line is one input and one yes or no output. Say if you are having, you know, multiple, I mean like arrows coming in from all the different directions to this decision box, then it is called as a merge, that you will see later. So, here yes, this is the initial activity, and the rounded you know rectangles are basically called as activities, or you could also call it as the individual steps of your use case. And these arrows which you could see are the flow, and then the decision activity is the diamond one. So, in the diamond one you will have one incoming arrow and two or more outgoing arrows. So, 2 means it is either yes or no. When you look at this particular one second, yeah, when you look at this particular diamond, then you have you know arrows which are coming from all the different sides. So, this is basically just showing a merge of multiple operations. And when you look at here, this is the synchronization bar fork, okay. So, in the fork you will have one incoming and two or more outgoing. And the major thing which you have to understand here is that the activities on this are parallel flow, the beneath this are basically the parallel flows. So, it can occur in any order, or it can even occur in concurrently. So, this is basically like application specific. Sometimes if you are doing an iteration, it has to do by step, right, or sometimes say send confirmation order release. So, this could be done in parallel as well. So, it could be concurrent access. And then after the confirmation and release order, then you have this bar, like this bar followed by one out. So, 2 input and 1 out, right. So, this is kind of the join. So, all the activities into the join must be completed before you process the next of your activities. That is the meaning of this. And then this one is the activity final, okay. And you can also put this text inside this. They are called as a guard, or those you know which will trigger represents the trigger, that is the results of the activity. Now, the final one is the swim lane. So, in swim lane it is just you know the way of grouping the activities. So, here you have user. So, user can sign up, right, and it is sending the confirmation, I mean like the system will send the confirmation email. The user will confirm the sign up and send welcome mail will be done by the system. So, when you look at the system, you know that sending the confirmation email and sending the welcome email has to be done by the system itself. But when you look at the user, it is very clear that the sign up and the confirmation sign up has to be done by the user, right. So, this is how it will work. Now, yeah, this is the same thing. So, this is sometimes you know the activities within the fork will be a iterative step as well. So, just understand that there could be iterative steps, and there could be multiple outputs also for the swim lane. Say you have this one, and you have, I mean like here it is a fork. So, when you look at here, the synchronization fork, you have transmit shipment and update order status, which could be done in parallel, right. So, one input and multiple outputs, but all the ones in the multiple output has to be completed before you go for the next one. So, this is actually something which is actually taken from the text itself. So, purchasing department handles purchase request from other departments in the company. People in the company who initiate the original purchase request are customers of the purchasing department, right. So, you have so many employees in your department, but say you can have multiple departments also, like purchase department, sales department, right. You can have a marketing department, there will be different type of departments. But for the purchase department is concerned, so purchase department might get you know, the request from the order, the sales, right. So, I mean, like, you know, for them they are the customers, that is what they are actually telling here. And a case worker within the purchasing department receives. So, what does a case worker do? So, in your purchasing department you have somebody to work for the request. So, he is called as a case worker and he will purchase. So, he will receive the request, he will monitor it and monitor until it is ordered and received. And the case worker process request for the purchase of products, and he has to process that based on a condition. So, if the purchase of the products is under 1500, he has to write a purchase order, then send it to the approved vendor. So, you need a vendor also, right. So, purchase request over 1500, he must send out the bid from vendors. So, if it is the order is actually greater than 1500, then he has to send out a bid to all the vendors. And when the bid returns, the case worker select one bid, then he or she writes a purchase order and sends to the vendor. So, how can you actually, you know, formulate it in the case of a activity diagram? So, when you look at the activity diagram, so you have customer, you have case worker and you have vendor. So, your customer is the one who actually, customer for this particular system is basically who is that, the employees in the department, it's in another department itself, but in the same company itself. So, they sends the purchase request, then the case worker receives it. He will first check whether the purchase value is greater than 1500 or less than 1500, right. If it is less than 1500, it is as simple as that, he has to write the purchase order, he has to send the purchase order to the vendor. So, he will receive it, he will receive the, I mean, like, he will dispatch the product, right, and they will receive the product, the case worker will receive the product and will send the information and they will receive the information. But if the purchase value is greater than 1500, so we need to do a series of steps, right. We need to request the bid and receive the bid from the vendors. So, this is a series of action or an iterative step that has to be, or which has to be done for each vendor, right. Say for one particular product you have multiple vendors, okay, you will request the bid, okay, and receive the bid from the users, from the vendors, but you have to do it iteratively. So, after requesting the bid, it has to reach the vendor and the vendor will send the bid, so they will receive it. So, this has to be done for all the different vendors, right. And once they receive the bid, they will select the bid and then again they have to come out with the purchase order, they have to send the purchase order document and receive the purchase order here by the vendor, again dispatch the products. Once he receives it, he will dispatch the products. So, the steps are all the same, right. Finally, it will be closed here. So, this is how you have to actually come out with the diagrams, right. So, here now I will show you a different example anyway. So, I am going to start a new project, okay. I want to show you this example, but I will show you the example by simply starting with how to start with and then come to this example. So, I am starting a new project. So, whenever you start a new project, you need to save the project, say trial or activity demo is the project and I am just saving it in the desktop itself. So, this is your new project, right. So, once you got your new project, you will have your model wizard opened here. Say if you couldn't see this model wizard, it is there in the design itself. So, you can open that. Now, you have to go to the core modeling, okay. You have to go to the core modeling. In the core modeling, initially for the last session we were taking this use case diagram. Now, we need to take this dynamic view. This is very, very important because people always make mistakes. Okay. So, you are going to the wizard, core modeling, you have to scroll down. Okay. There is no activity diagram as such, because in dynamic view itself you have different type of diagrams that you will learn later. Activity diagram is there, sequence diagram, there are different type of diagrams which are available. So, you will learn it. So, you are clicking on the dynamic view and you are clicking OK. So, now when you look at the model at the project browser, the model, you have this dynamic view. This dynamic view, if you start working with this dynamic view, some of your activities will not work basically. So, what you have to do is that click on the dynamic view, not this one, the main dynamic view. Click on the dynamic view, okay. Right click, okay. Sorry for this. When you double click, it will open, that is why, okay. So, right click on this dynamic view and you have so many things which are there, but you have to add a diagram. Okay. So, what I am saying is you have just created a dynamic view, then you have to right click on the dynamic view, add a diagram. So, when you add a diagram, another window actually pops up. Okay. There are so many activities which you could do basically with this. There are UML structural, structural diagrams like class diagrams. So, we will see this class diagram and all, object diagram, you will see component deployment and all, you will see it in OOD, object oriented design. And here we have to click on UML behavioral diagrams. In the behavioral diagrams, you will have use case, activity, state machine, sequence. So, in that we have to basically go with activity diagram. So, also understand that if you want to work on the interaction diagram or sequence diagram, which basically communication diagram, which works basically on the time and the space kind of diagrams, you have to use such kind of dynamic views. So, you are actually using views. So, in this now you have to click on activity diagram and click OK. So, I will tell you once again. So, we have got this from the model wizard, you have got the dynamic view, right, you have got the dynamic view. So, you are actually having the dynamic view here. So, I will delete one of the dynamic view so that you are not confused. Okay. So, you have your dynamic view, sorry I deleted both. So, yes, so here you are clicking on the dynamic view, right, click OK. So, your view is ready here. Now, you are right clicking and adding the diagram and you are going to the UML behavioral model and then click on the activity and then here you have to click OK. So, this is the place where you have to actually make your diagram. Okay. So, this is the place where you will actually make your diagram. So, this will look like something like this. Okay. So, this one, this is not the first one, the second one, and say now you have actually all the activity symbols which are actually mentioned here. The two, if in case it is not visible, what you have to do is that you have to click on the more tools and you have to select the activity here, so that all its corresponding operators or the symbols will be displayed here. Okay. So, now the first thing which you have to do is that you need to create partition, right. So, all your diagrams you will see having partitions here, right, you will have partitions here. Say if you want customer, okay. So, customer, just imagine that you want say you want customer, sorry. So, you want customer, case worker, vendor. So, 3 partitions, right. So, for that what you will do is that you will click on the partition, you will drag and drop here. So, whenever you drag and drop a partition, normally it will look like horizontal, right. So, you can actually say customer, you are actually saying customer, and there is something, these arrows, you could see arrow, this search button and all those stuff, right. In that, click on the last one. So, when you click on the last one, you could see that now it has actually turned to vertical. So, this is just to change your whether from horizontal to vertical. Okay. So, this is your first partition, right. So, for the first partition you can actually, if you want to increase the size of the partition, you can actually increase the size of the partition also. Now, I want another partition. So, I am clicking and dropping it here. Again it is case worker. So, I am just clicking on case worker, right. I am clicking on the case worker. Now, I am turning it down and then I am making it along with the along with my diagram, and I am just making it there, right. So, if you are down here, it will look like something like this. Okay. Now again I want one more partition, so I am clicking and dropping it here, and it is nothing but vendor. Okay, it is nothing but vendor, so I am just turning it around again here. Now I want to make it here, and I am just dropping it down. So this line is basically like, this is one page space. So when you move on to the other line, this dark line will come. So that line actually you can actually take it off by clicking on the presentation. When you click on the presentation in the layout, actually it is gone, but now it looks like a, like a image. So say once you have completed all your diagram and then you want to get rid of this line which is here, then you can actually click on the presentation and you can take a screenshot, or save it as an image, export it as an image or something like that and use. Okay. If you click on the presentation initially, what happens is that some of the the symbols will not work. Okay. So this is how you will actually start with. Now what are you actually doing? You have to start your send purchase request from the customer. So for that, what you will do is that you have to start. Okay. So for starting, you have to click on the initial and you have to simply drop it here. So let it be activity initial itself. Now from the activity initial, you need to send a purchasing request. So you're actually see here I am just taking that arrow. Okay. See here I have this arrow, then I have this action, right, and activity. So I want an activity to be done. So I will click on the control flow. On the control flow, send purchase request. Send purchase request is my first thing. So I am just doing it, and I am just dragging and dropping it down so that it look properly, and then I am trying to reduce its size by making it smaller, and probably maybe making it just like this. So this is nothing but the send purchase request. So now I have actually done the send purchase request. So now what I need to do? Now what I have to do is that I need to receive this request. So the case worker has to receive this request, right? So I will not be doing it completely, but I will just show you how to do it, that's all. So I am actually coming over here. Okay. So this is actually received by another activity. So activity itself, and then I can click on the activity. So here receive, RECEIVE, receive request, receive request, and this receive request, try to make it smaller so that it doesn't take much space, because you will have other things to be done, right? So this is your receive request. So you have actually received the request. Now what you have to do, you need to check on the purchase value, right? So you will check on the purchase value. So for the purchase value, so it's actually kind of a decision. So you will click on this arrow. Okay. Now when you bring it down, you have so many things which are actually shown here, right? In that I will take control flow, but the decision control flow. Okay. Decision control flow. If purchase cost greater than 1,500. Okay. So that is what I want to do. So now I will make this request a little, broader. Okay. I will take this a little bit here, and that you can adjust anyway. And what I need to do is I want to make it a little bit broader. Okay. And now I will pick this. So when you pick this, what you could do is you can now you have to select that and bring it back here, okay, in the middle. So now the purchase request is greater than what you have to do. Okay. So if it is greater than what you have to do, if it is less than what you have to do. So you can have two arrows. Okay. If it is less than, what you can do, you can actually come on with some some activity here. Okay. So, if it is less than, if it is less than, you have to write the purchase order and keep moving on, right. So, right. So, here you can take this out. Write purchase order, write purchase order, and you can actually do it here, but I wanted to show you the other way around. So, I am just not going through this this particular path. I want to show you something else. Say if it is less than, okay. So, this is greater than, it is, I mean like no, I mean like it is not greater than, right. So, no, then you can directly go and write the purchase order. So, if you have a greater than value, what you have to do, you need to do a series of actions. So, the first series of the first action in the series of actions is nothing but you need to request the bid and receive the bid, right. So, these two actions you have to do. So, I will click on here and request bid, okay, is one of the activity to be done. One of the activity to be done, and I also want I mean like receive bid, okay. So, receive bid, if you, because it has to go through this way and come back here. So, I am not going through that because I specifically want to show you something. So, that is why. So, I am taking another activity and I am just putting it here, okay, and this is your receive bid, okay. So, basically you are receiving the bid after going to the vendor and asking and all the stuff, right. So, you are getting these two activities. So, this activity you will basically be getting it from the vendor, okay. So, it has to go to the vendor and approve it, and you are getting it. Now, here I want to show you something. So, this request bid and receive bid, okay, when you look at your activity, this request bid and receive bid, you have to do it for each and every vendor, right. So, this is kind of a loop of activities which has to be done. So, I want to show you this fork, right. So, basically what you could do is, I am just deleting this one, and from here I am taking the, okay. So, this one, say from here I am just taking here, and see here there is something called fork and join, okay. So, in yours in your new versions, sometimes it will even show like fork horizontal, fork vertical, and join horizontal, join vertical. I will show you what it is. So, I am just taking the fork fork here. So, in this fork you will get 1, okay, and from here you can actually connect it to the request, okay, and this is just an activity control flow. From here you are actually taking this one, sorry, you are actually taking this one and joining it here. So, this could be a normal control flow, okay, a normal control flow, and after the receive bid you want to close that asynchronous one, right. So, what you will do is that, see here, so fork is control flow, the horizontal, right. So, here we want to join the control flow. So, we are actually doing it like this. So, I mean like all these activities has to be completed, and now you are actually reaching it here. So, this is how basically you will, so you have this fork horizontal and the vertical. So, according to the size and the shape of the diagram you will be using them, but the concepts are all the same, okay. So, this is how it is, and now finally say, just imagine that if you want to end your activity, then you can actually use this final symbol, okay. So, final symbol you can actually do it like this, and then you can actually simply connect it to this final activity as a control flow. So, this is how you will actually say, once this activity is over you will complete it here, right. Say if another activity is getting over here, you have to complete it there, okay. So, say you can, sorry. So, here you can actually say if your activity is getting completed here, okay. So, you can actually click on the final activity control flow and you can actually close it there itself, okay. So, this is how basically you will use it. And one more thing which I wanted to tell you is that these are the lines, right. So, in the lines you can have different line styles here, okay. So, say if you are using this custom line, the beauty of the custom line is that if you are overlapping, say if you have a big diagram, okay, if you have a big diagram, say just imagine that you have a connection from here to here or something like that, say here or something like that, okay. So say you have some line, this is not correct, but I am just telling, say you have something like this which has to go through this way, and say if you are using the line style as yes, this one, say if it is a custom line, then say if you are actually in a crossing through another line, it will give this this small division, so that to make you understand that okay, it is a custom line which is actually going through it, right. I mean, like, so this is actually very useful when you are actually working on a big diagram. And the other one is like you can actually get the line style, like you want to say ortho, so I mean, like see, you can actually change the places. I mean, like you can do all these things so that your diagram looks really good and neat. So all those things are basically possible, so by working on the line styles, okay. So this is what it is. I wanted to tell you, like, these are the various activities that you could do. So now I want to show you one exercise. So I am not saving this. So I want to show one exercise on bid activity. So in this activity, this is a small example which actually shows you about the mobile device bid. I mean, like, it could be a mobile device or whatever device it is. So it just shows you about some bidding activity. So just the bidding activity. So we have actually created the diagram already. So you have employee, so you have your mobile device management system, and you have your web service, because there is a service which comes in the picture, and the database server as well, because you need to update and all those stuff, okay. So you are ordering a mobile device, right. So this is the employee, say as an employee or a customer, you are actually ordering the mobile device. Then you are actually validating the request data, right. If the request data is valid, then what you have to do, if it is valid, then you have to route your request to the employee's manager queue, okay, and it will pass through this web interface, and it will reach the database server. So you have to insert that request into the manager's queue database, and then it has to return the status, right, return the status to through the web service. That is why it is actually written here. Then whether it is a successful request or not. If it is a successful request, if it is not a successful request, you have to simply display it is unsuccessful. If it is a successful request, you have to display the order is accepted. You are sending an email to both the employee and the manager, you are stopping this. And here itself, if the data is invalid, then you have to display error to the users. So this is how it is. So this is simple system. So here actually I have changed the colors. I want to show you this. See here, when you click on each partition, you can go here and change the colors. Okay, so if you want to make it as purple, you can make it dark color. So all those things are, and I mean, like, you can make your things look more prettier and more beautiful and everything by using this. So each color can actually tell you like each service, okay, or each swim lane characters which are actually in your activity diagram. So this is also one example. So that's all it is. So you have to select a new project, okay, then you have to name something, okay, name your project. Once you name your project, then in the wizard you have to go to the core modeling and select the dynamic view, okay, it is very, very important. So once you create the dynamic view, okay, right click on the main dynamic view and add a diagram. So this is how it is. So if you are like this, here in this, upon this you have to right click and add the diagram. Then you have to click on the UML behavioral diagram. In the behavioral diagram you have to select activity and click OK, right. So this is the place you will be actually working on the diagrams. So that's all about the activity diagram. So activity diagram mainly focus on the logic of your business process or the flow of actions. So in the use case you have this use case narrative, you have this flow of actions. So that is what we are actually focusing here. So for each use case you can do that particular use case by using different logics. The same way, for each use case which you are actually working on the activity diagram, you can have multiple activity diagrams. So that is one thing which you have to keep in mind, and there are certain symbols which you have to keep in mind and use it whenever it is appropriate. right. So, that is all about the activity diagram. So, it mainly focuses on the flow of business process. Thank you so much. So, if you have any doubts or anything like that, you can always get back to me. Thank you so much.